Channel 2 special on CBS Utica. Join our Storm Tracker 2 team for this special presentation, Severe Weather Awareness, as they prepare you for the season ahead.
Good evening and welcome to our Severe Weather Show. Thanks for joining us. Tonight our weather team is getting you ready for the summer season. We know it can be a busy time. I'm joined by our brand new meteorologists, Eric Gage and Hannah Evans. And things that we'll be talking about tonight include flooding, lightning, hail, tornadoes, and different types of watches and warnings. We're also diving into some of the new things that you can expect this summer, some new technology and new terminology. Let's get started first with meteorologist Eric Gage, who will be talking about flooding.
One of the costliest types of severe weather to affect our area is flooding, specifically flash flooding. The natural topography of central New York maximizes flood damage potential, and according to data researched by the University of Buffalo's School of Architecture and Planning, in the North Country, Mohawk Valley, and Southern Valleys, flooding was by far the #1 cause of property damage since 1960. In fact, besides western New York due to winter storms and New York City and Long Island due to hurricanes, the entirety of New York sees flooding disproportionately as the largest cause of property damage, with each flood averaging over $5 million per event. Last week, we saw several days in a row of nothing but sunshine, and that was due to a stalled front, which thankfully gave us a high pressure and clear skies over our area. The exact opposite happened in June of 2006, which gave us several days of rainfall and caused severe flooding, especially in the southern valleys. Here are some pictures of the floods, and as you can see, a lot of roads were washed out, with some areas seeing between 8 to 15 inches of rainfall and infrastructure failure, including Oneonta's sewage treatment plant. And right here is a picture of the I-88 taken by the National Guard. You can see the widespread flooding across the area. You can see some roads washed out as well, and even bridges too were flooded up to the point of where it was right over the road as well. And you can see people still were driving through the area, especially in floodwaters. Now, this flood caused over $100 million in damage and caused the deaths of 16 people. And once again, though flooding is costly economically, as you heard, it can cost the lives if proper safety isn't followed during a flash flood event. First, breaking it down, what is a flash flood? Flash floods are floods that begin within 3 to 6 hours of heavy rainfall or other causes such as dam breaks or mudslides. Depending on the situation, flooding could begin in a matter of minutes, so warnings for flash floods could possibly not arrive in time. So how do you remain safe in a flash flood event? Following some flood safety tips, first off, please move to higher ground. Do not attempt to drive through a flooded road. Even just 1 foot of water will float vehicles. Now, 2 feet of rushing water can carry most vehicles, including SUVs. And make sure you do not drive around barricades. They are there for a reason, as that will cause the possibility of you driving through some floodwaters. So more deaths occur from flooding each year compared to any other hazard besides heat. This is primarily due to people underestimating the power of water. Almost half of all flash flood fatalities are vehicle related, which is why it's important to never drive in a flooded area and to never drive around barriers set on a flooded road. Now, there are 2 types of alerts to follow in a flood event. The first one, a flash flood watch, where flash flooding is possible in an area but hasn't happened yet. And the second one, a flash flood warning, which is a flooding has already been reported or is imminent, and be conscious of heading out on the road in flood-prone areas and to avoid any roads that are flooded, no matter how deep it looks.
Hail is a type of precipitation that has solid ice and is formed inside thunderstorms. Hail is very dangerous because it can cause damage to anything outside at that time. Any cars, any trees may fall because when they get too big and too heavy. So hailstorms are often formed when rain from the thunderstorms are carried upwards by the updraft of the storm into cold pockets that are occurring in the middle of the storm, and they freeze. They can then grow even further by colliding with more liquid water drops from the storm that freeze when touching the hail's surface. The hail then falls when the updraft of this thunderstorm cannot support the weight of the hail anymore, and this usually occurs when the storm starts to weaken or the hail becomes too heavy. So looking into the United States, Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming have the most hailstorms per year. They have around 7 to 9 average hailstorms per year, usually coming from thunderstorms. Where these states meet is often called Hail Alley. Now, looking at the sizes of hail, hail can range from the size of a pea, which is just 1/4 of an inch in diameter, to the size of a grapefruit, which is 4.5 inches in diameter. But anything over an inch of hail in diameter is considered severe, and when this is occurring, a severe thunderstorm warning would be issued for that area that is receiving that hail. The largest hailstone ever recorded in the United States was 8 inches. That's double the size of a grapefruit. That happened in South Dakota in July of 2010. Now on to our next trivia question, which is bringing in tornadoes. What was the fastest wind speed measured in last year's Westernville tornado? Was it A, 95 miles per hour, B, 105 miles per hour, C, 125 miles per hour, or D, 140 miles per hour? Bill will have your answer after the break.
Are you looking for...
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the answer to our trivia question about tornadoes. So what was the fastest wind speed measured in last year's Westernville tornado? The answer was 105 miles an hour. That was an EF1 tornado, and that was one of 2 tornadoes that happened last year. The other one happened a month earlier in Lee Center near Sulphur Springs Road. This was also an EF1 tornado with maximum winds of 95 miles an hour. While tornadoes are not common in our area, they do happen. Since 2010, there have been 19 confirmed tornadoes in central New York. 5 of those years had no tornadoes, but 4 of those years had years with multiple tornado touchdowns. The most active year in recent memory was 2011, with 7 confirmed tornadoes. Several of those tornadoes happened during the pre-dawn hours of April 28th. So how do tornadoes form? We have to look at this 3-dimensionally. We look at winds along the surface and compare this to winds aloft. If the winds are blowing faster aloft, this is something called a speed shear. This is when the winds are changing speed with height, and this creates a natural spin in the atmosphere. This is happening vertically. As the air lifts, it twists. Think about a pinwheel with this process. And so this vertical spin can become horizontal if we add lifting air. And when thunderstorms develop, they're caused by lifting air. It's something called an updraft. It can happen in a bunch of different ways. One way is through the process of convection, which is hot air rising. This can create a rotating column that ends up turning in the horizontal. This is one of the textbook examples of what's called a supercell storm. This is a storm that rotates. And in addition to a supercell storm, which are the most common types of storms that produce tornadoes, if there's winds that are sinking near the surface, that's really what triggers the process of tornadoes developing. So it's complicated, but when a tornado begins to happen, it starts out as a funnel cloud. A funnel cloud is a tornado that does not reach the ground. When it does reach the ground, it does become a tornado. And tornadoes come in all different shapes and sizes through something called the enhanced Fujita scale. It goes from 0 to 5, and while most of our tornadoes locally are on the low side, understand that even an EF0 tornado could have wind speeds stronger than a hurricane, and EF1 and EF2 tornadoes could see winds over 100 miles an hour. The National Weather Service sends out storm survey teams after a tornado touches down and does damage to come up with an investigation to determine how strong these winds are. So this is something that's determined after the tornado touches down and does damage. If there's a tornado warning in your area, what do? Where's the best place to go? For houses without a basement, you're going to want to head into an interior room. The bathroom or a closet are usually good choices for most homes. You want to avoid windows, doors, and outside walls. The idea here is to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. The safest location to be in a home is in the basement.
Let's start with some facts about lightning. Lightning kills over 20 people a year in the U.S. alone. It also injures hundreds more, with some people suffering lifelong neurological damage. This is why any threat of lightning is to be taken seriously especially if you're outdoors. Now quickly, some things to know: if you are wearing jewelry on your body that's metal, such as necklaces and watches, this does not increase your risk of being struck by lightning. More on how lightning forms coming up in just a minute. Metal does conduct lightning, however, so leaning under metal fences and cars can electrocute you. So how do you stay safe during the threat of lightning? Remember the phrase, when thunder roars, head indoors. Your best and safest option to stay safe. When inside, stay safe from windows, as windows can shatter during a lightning strike. And if you can't find shelter in a house, get in a car with a closed roof, which is your next safest bet. And if you have no other option and cannot get into a building or car, crouch low to the ground. Avoid being in an area where you are the tallest object, and avoid being near trees. Once again, crouch. Do not lay on the ground, as laying on the ground puts you in a much greater risk. The less of your body touching the ground and the lower you are to the ground, the safer you are. And this right here will explain why. The process of lightning starts with negatively charged electrons building up in the atmosphere and begin zigzagging towards the ground. This is what's called a stepped leader. As it moves closer to the ground, positively charged protons from the ground begin getting drawn up in the atmosphere. Tall objects like buildings, trees, or you, if out in the open outside, make this movement of the protons easier, since air is a natural electrical insulator. As the negative charge from the cloud and the positive charge from the surface connect, a powerful electrical current flows. The return stroke is what we see as lightning. This process could repeat, causing flickering. And keep in mind, all of this happens in less than a second, which is why lightning is so dangerous and unpredictable. Now, going to some anatomy of a thunderstorm cloud, the top of the cloud here is positively charged and the bottom of the cloud is negatively charged. So first, intercloud lightning is the most common, as we see flashes frequently in the sky. The next most common is one explained earlier, which is when charges from the bottom of the cloud connect when charges from the ground. The least common lightning event, but the most dangerous type, is when positive charges at the very top of the cloud build up so much charge that they attract negatively charged electrons from the ground. These are the largest and most dangerous lightning strikes due to the stronger peak current, and the flash is usually longer. These are the big strikes that you see in pictures. Trivia question: of the over 300,000 warnings issued by the National Weather Service over the past 10 years across America, what percentage were severe thunderstorms? 40%, 50%, 60%, or 70%? The answer when we come back.
Is the answer to the trivia question previously. Of the over 300,000 warnings issued by the National Weather Service over the past 10 years across America, what percentage were severe thunderstorm warnings? Was it A, 40%, B, 50%, C, 60%, or D, 70%? And the answer is C. 60% of all these warnings were severe thunderstorms warnings. Severe thunderstorm warnings are one of the most popular and most used warnings by the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service issues watches, warnings, and advisories based on different types and the severity of incoming severe weather. Watches are issued when severe weather is possible with the given conditions of the weather happening, and warnings are issued when severe weather is occurring at that moment and it requires the viewers to take action. We get our information here at our station out of 3 of the National Weather Service offices. They include Buffalo, Albany, and Binghamton. Now, an advisory can be issued when given weather conditions are likely to occur. They are kind of like watches, but they are issued for less severe weather than a watch. There are a couple types of different advisories. We have the winter weather advisory, frost advisory, wind chill advisory, flood advisory, and heat advisory. An advisory is just something to keep in mind, that these less severe conditions could occur with the weather conditions on a given day. The most issued warnings where we live include winter storm warnings, snow squall warnings, freeze warnings, wind chill warnings, and severe thunderstorm warnings and flood warnings. A winter storm warning is issued when 7 or more inches of snow or sleet is expected to fall within a 12-hour period, or it could be 9 or more inches of snow or sleet within a 24-hour period. It is usually issued either a day or two in advance, and it is long-lived throughout the whole entire event. A snow squall warning is issued when a burst of heavy snow causing reduced visibility and gusty winds is expected, and it is short-lived. These warnings only last about 20 or 30 minutes. A freeze warning is issued when widespread freezing temperatures are expected, and it is issued during growing season. A wind chill warning is issued when wind chills of 20 below 0 Fahrenheit or lower are expected. A severe thunderstorm warning is defined as winds higher than 58 miles per hour and hail at least an inch in diameter. And severe thunderstorm warnings are short-lived, just like a thunderstorm, only about 20 to 30 minutes. A flood warning is issued when flooding is occurring, and that is usually long-lived until the flood subsides. So once again, a warning is issued for anything if the weather is occurring and it is time to take action, while a watch or advisory is issued when the weather conditions are favorable for the specific event to occur, and an advisory is kind of less severe than a watch. Now here is our next trivia question. What type of weather instrument is best used to measure winds inside of a thunderstorm? Is it A, a satellite, B, a barometer, C, a Doppler radar, or D, a smartphone? And when we return, Bill will have the answer for you.
Week 5 of...
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the answer to our final trivia question. What type of weather instrument is best used to measure winds inside a thunderstorm? The answer is Doppler radar. For tonight's final segment, I'd like to take a look at what's new this year for tracking severe weather. The National Weather Service is changing the way they communicate severe thunderstorm warnings. Remember, a severe thunderstorm is when winds are over 58 miles an hour and or quarter-sized hail. Not all severe thunderstorm warnings are the same. Some storms are more violent than others. Thunderstorms capable of producing considerable damage include wind speeds over 70 miles an hour and or golf ball-sized hail. Destructive storms produce winds over 80 miles an hour and or baseball-sized hail. Destructive severe thunderstorm warnings will also trigger the wireless emergency alert system, which will send a message to your smartphone. There's also a new advancement in tornado warnings. Typically, tornado warnings in our area are Doppler indicated only. That means the Doppler radar is measuring very strong winds near the base of the thunderstorm. A tornado is likely, but it's not necessarily occurring. There's been a recent upgrade to the radar called dual pol, and this allows meteorologists to spot debris inside of a tornado while it's happening. This debris signature is what it's called. This confirms the presence of a tornado on the ground. The terminology that you'll see for this type of warning is radar confirmed tornado. That's treated as the tornado is on the ground. In either situation, you'll want to seek shelter immediately. It's difficult to confirm the visual presence of tornadoes in our area because of hilly terrain, and this is a huge upgrade, and it could potentially save lives. A reminder, we will be continuing the Storm Tracker 2 alert days. This is meant to give you an early heads up on the potential for severe weather. For example, widespread thunderstorms, damaging winds, flooding, or excessive heat, as a few. You want to look for the red bar on the 7-day forecast. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to download our Storm Tracker 2 weather app. This is an easy way to get critical warning information on the go. You can customize all the information that you want. Our app sends you notifications when lightning strikes nearby or when heavy rain is on the way. It's free and it's easy to find. As we wrap up our show tonight, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch. Our weather team will continue to keep you informed on severe weather throughout the summer season. You can always follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. If you have any questions about tonight's show, feel free to send us an email to weather@wktv.com. That will do it for this season's Severe Weather Show. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.
Try brush